And I must tell you that in our previous webinars, we've seen that in the next 5 minutes of networking, people have striked deals with each other. There was, in fact, a raw material provider who could interact with the manufacturer, and they went ahead and got into a dealership opportunity. So use the chat box, introduce yourself. I will be doing that as well. I have my colleague Adnan here, who is going to be also taking a next follow-on session for SEO. What are the kind of common mistakes that business owners make in relation to SEO? That is on the 10th of August, and you could definitely register. We will put in the chat box how you could register for this. We have Kaushal here as well, the speaker for today, as well as his colleague Ashraf, who will take on any technical questions that you might have in relation to SEO. And also, given that SEO is so vast, I think it can be never ending and the goalpost keeps changing. So we'll try to kind of take objective questions, but I would request all of you all to use the Q&A section to send in any query that you would like to ask the speaker. In the chat box, it will get missed because we'll still be interacting with each other. So welcome to all of you. We'll start the session sharp at 4:35. But in the meanwhile, let me tell you a little about, and I'm sure most of you already know about GlobalLinker. You signed up on GlobalLinker for registering for this event. But I'm Malvika Jaggi, and I'm representing GlobalLinker, the SME business networking platform with over 4 lakh plus business owners today. It is actually a free of cost and an easy solution to join, but it is by invitation only. And I'm happy to tell you that you've all been invited by various large banks, corporate bodies, trade bodies, and government organizations. So it's for you to now make the most of it. But the idea of GlobalLinker is to make an SME or a business owner's journey more easier, simpler, and profitable. And how you would do that is basically by making your business discoverable and transaction ready. So these are the 2 goals that you can focus on. But while we wait for a couple of more people to join in, let me tell you about this initiative that we started. It's called the GlobalLinker Growth Talks. We've had a series of webinars conducted by experts in the domain, in various domains, right from accounting to now today SEO to digital marketing to how you can actually expand your business. So, and why did we start this Growth Talks initiative? So we believe that growth never takes place by mere chance, and it's the result of various forces coming together. So what we are trying to intend to do with this series is bring together the focus or the forces of industry specialists and domain experts so that they can share their practical knowledge with our growing community of business owners here. So allow me to also introduce our speaker for today, Mr. Kaushal Shroff. He is the founder and CEO of Enspire360, which is a digital marketing agency. He has been the former director of digital marketing at Prudential. Kaushal has also completed his MBA. He's been an author of a technology patent and a serial entrepreneur. A fun fact that I can share with you all is that Kaushal initially co-founded GlobalLinker with his twin brother in North America. Subsequently, the current founders took over the expansion globally. And I'm happy to meet all of you here. Happy to have you, Kaushal. Thank you for actually spending time curating expert knowledge to showcase with our members today. Happy to have you on board, Kaushal.
Yeah, thank you, Malvika, for that wonderful introduction. And there's no place I'd rather be. So thank you for inviting us to speak at this very interesting topic. And I'm sharing my screen. Hopefully you can see my screen.
It's not come up yet, Kaushal.
Okay.
Yes, now it's here.
Okay, great. So, and I would like to thank the GlobalLinker team for having me, for inviting me. In today's conversation, we'll be sharing with you actionable tactics that you can employ, especially if you have a store on GlobalLinker, and stick around till the very end, because we'll be
Kaushal, can
sharing
I
tools.
stop you here for a second? We seem to have a technical issue. Adnan, I don't think people can chat currently. I'm not able to send anything to members. Ma'am, you're on mute. We'll give you some time to figure that out. Yes, Kaushal, you can go ahead now.
Okay. No, I was just saying that, stick around till the very end, because we'll be sharing with you free tools, resources, which are also sprinkled throughout the presentation, but we'll share some additional links with you at the very end. And we'll also be sharing with you the details on how you can get a free search engine optimization audit as part of this engagement. And the benefit we have is that we work with countless clients for search engine optimization engagement. And we are able to bring the best practices that you can actually apply to your online store. And the critical thing here is that we are focusing on things that you should be able to do, whether you're a beginner or whether you're an intermediate user in search engine optimization. And these are things you can largely do without tools, without very sophisticated tools. So as an agency, we have a lot of tools, we have a lot of resources, but what can you do as a store owner? So those are the kinds of tactics and tools and techniques that we'll be sharing with you in this presentation. So with that, this is the agenda that we have outlined for today. First, we'll look at the marketing fundamentals, because SEO sits within a larger marketing framework. Then we'll look at why SEO is important for e-commerce. Then we'll understand how customers are searching for your product. It's important to understand how they are searching before we go ahead and build out the SEO strategy. Then we'll guide you step by step on what are the 12 steps you can take to optimize your store. And these are all very tactical. These are all things you'll be able to do. Then we'll talk about technical SEO issues and how to clean those up, link building strategies, and then we'll talk a little bit about the free SEO audit and tools and resources. So before we begin, the secret of making progress is to get started. And the other quote I'll share with you is that, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So it's important that after we go through this webinar, you take some action. And search engine optimization, as Malvika indicated, is a long journey. It's iterative. It'll take time, but if you stick with it, you will see results. And in fact, as you will see, search engine optimization has the highest ROI, especially when you're talking about e-commerce. So we'll ask you as you go through this, and we'll be sharing this recording with you as well. So if you miss something, you can always go back and you can always take a look at some of the specifics. But it's very important to take action and to start somewhere and to make continuous progress and stick with it. So with that, I will share with you some marketing fundamentals, and then we'll go into the other parts of the presentation. So here it's very important as you're thinking about whether it's just search engine optimization or more broadly marketing, to think from your audience's perspective. So it's always about them, never about you. And as you will see, even the keywords we select have to be selected from your audience's perspective, not how you see your products, not how you would search for them, but how would your audience search for those products. Focus on benefits, not features. Yes, you can list your features, but benefits is how you can differentiate your products. There can be no spelling or grammar mistakes. I cannot tell you how many times I have not purchased something because I would see all kinds of mistakes on the site. And that just conveys poor lack of attention. That just conveys carelessness. And then that may prohibit someone from making a purchase if there are mistakes on your site. Value relationships over transactions. So make sure your prospects, your customers have a good experience so that they come back. Develop a deep understanding of your audience. It's important to understand who your audience is, what their pain points are, what are some of the challenges they are facing, so that you can build your marketing strategy and your search engine optimization tactics based on that deep understanding. Content is king. Scale personalization. Leverage social proof. So if you have, if you've made certain number of sales, if you've been in business for a certain number of years, if you've won certain awards, if your products are certified, so make sure you mention those. If your payment is secure, which luckily, if you have a store on GlobalLinker, a lot of those things are already taken care of. But those are kinds of things you can mention to make sure your prospects feel comfortable buying from you. Use emotions when possible, because at the end of the day, a lot of our decisions, even though we may think are rational, are on an emotional backdrop. And then finally, find your own blue ocean. So find your own little niche, some area where nobody else is competing. It may be by positioning your product a little differently. It might be by offering a different set of products together. But figure out your own unique niche so that you are not competing with some of the big brands. So those are some of the fundamentals. And I think, as they say, if you get the fundamentals wrong, then some of everything else won't be enough to save you. So it's important to understand your audience. It's important to understand and build your content with your audience in mind. It's important to value relationships. So those are just some basic fundamentals that we hope you'll keep in mind as we go through the rest of the deck. So why is SEO important for e-commerce? As I mentioned earlier, SEO has the highest ROI for e-commerce stores. It's also 37.5% of the traffic to e-commerce site comes from organic search. 23% is directly related to organic clicks, and around 95% of the shoppers do not go past the first page in their search results. So it has a very high ROI. So if you're spending time and effort and money on anything related to marketing, search engine optimization should be the first one on your list because it has the highest return on investment. So these are some stats, and I'm sure you understand the importance of SEO. Otherwise, you would not be on this webinar. But we just wanted to highlight why it's important. Second, we'll look at understanding the search intent. So this is where we go into the mind of your prospects who are searching. And it's important to understand the reason and behind why they are searching and what they are searching so that you can build your content around it. So there are 4 broad categories. One is informational. And here we are looking at things which are like that is, why is, a tutorial guide, tips, ideas. So this is very early in the journey kind of content. Yeah, so what are some ideas or what are some tips on how do I use this, those kinds of things. Then is navigational. So this includes product name, brand name, service names. And so we want to think about those key terms as well. Then third is commercial. So here they're using words like best, compare, reviews, find this type of a business near me. We have seen, especially on GlobalLinker, a lot of the searches are local searches. And even a lot of the traffic coming into GlobalLinker is local traffic. So you want to think about that. If you're selling a product, what are some of the local key phrases you can also optimize for? And then finally, transactional. These are these are very high intent searches. So these include keywords like buy, order, coupon, deal, how much does something cost. So those are the 4 different broad categories, but it's important to understand the intent behind your user search so you can display the right kind of content, and also so that you can build that kind of content on your website. So with that in mind, now we'll go through the 12 steps. A lot of this you should be able to implement on your own. Some of this, luckily, since you're on GlobalLinker, the GlobalLinker technology team would have already addressed. So, but most of this you should be able to take action on. And as I mentioned earlier, we will be sharing links to tools and resources that you'll be able to use as you go through this. One thing we have done is we have not shared any complex or expensive tools that you may not have access to. As an agency, we have access to a whole plethora of very complex and expensive tools and technology, which we use to optimize a site. But here we are focusing mostly on free tools and tools which are easy to use so that you can start making some progress on your own. So the other thing I wanted to highlight here is that these steps are roughly in the right sequence. So they are not strictly speaking linear, but for example, you need to do keyword research before you do keyword placement, or before you optimize your product pages, or before you optimize your snippets. So they are roughly in the right order. And SEO is never ending. So you'll constantly be making improvements. You'll be constantly, as you introduce a new product, you'll constantly be optimizing those new pages for search engines. But the idea is that if you stay with it, you will see results. It's think of it as a long distance marathon race rather than a sprint. So you have to stick with it for a long period of time. But once you optimize your site, it will then become a competitive advantage. A new site will not be able to compete with you and displace you overnight. So that's the benefit of search engine optimization. Unlike ads, where someone can, with a deeper pocket, can place ads and outbid you. with search engine optimization, it's very unlikely that they'll be able to displace you right away. So step one, here we are talking about keyword. How do you do keyword research? This is the most important step. It's also one of the first steps. So there are three things. You'd find, you'd analyze, and you'd use these different keywords in building your content. So keyword research, you identify the right keywords and key phrases that people are searching for, and that is relevant to the products that you are selling. If it's not relevant, then there's no point of optimizing it, because what you will see is a high bounce rate. People will come to that page, they'll say, this page is not really about this key phrase, and they'll leave. And Google can keep track of that, because then that person will perform another search. There's no point of getting that kind of a traffic, because you'll have very high bounce rates. So we want to make sure whatever keywords we are optimizing for is relevant to the products that you are selling. Then it's important to understand long tail keywords as well. So what is a long tail keyword? So instead of just using a keyword like shoes, which has very high search volume, but also a lot of competition and probably very low conversion because it's a very common word, something like running shoes is likely to convert better, because now that person maybe is at least familiar with the category of shoes that he or she is looking for. And then if you make it even longer tail, then we are looking at a keyword like a key phrase like best running shoes for kids. And this key phrase is more likely to convert, because this person is likely, first of all, they're using sort of the word like best. So, they're looking for, they're probably very close to making a purchasing decision. They're looking for a very specific category of shoes. So this, even though it has very low volume, this probably has a very high conversion intent. So these key phrases are from buyers who are likely to convert and who are likely to purchase from your site. So at any given point, you have to figure out what is the right balance between the search volume and conversion. So we want to make sure there is some search volume. If you're getting 3 clicks a month, you'll probably not see any conversion from that. So we want to make sure we have the right search volume, and then we want to match that with the right conversion as well. So make sure that it's not too long, but it's a right size where you are seeing some volume, and their conversion intent is also high. The other thing I want to point out is that longer tail keywords are easier to rank for initially. So as you are starting out, focus on this sort of key phrases. It'll be very hard for you to, virtually impossible for you to rank for a key phrase like shoes, because these are sites with thousands of links back to their site. They have hundreds of pages. So it'll be very hard to displace them from the first page. But this sort of key phrase, long tail key phrase, there's likely very little competition. And those are the key phrases where you at least have a shot of ranking well. Then we would look at three sort of parts to this. One is that the key phrase has to be popular. So what we talked about just now, which is it has to have the right amount of search volume. It has to be rankable, so the difficulty cannot be too high. And then finally, relevant. It has to match the pages and the content and the products that you are selling. So we want to make sure that whatever key phrases you select have to meet these three criteria. Because if the search volume is very low, then what's the point? If the keyword difficulty is too high, then you'll probably not rank on page 1. And if it's not relevant, then the visitors will leave your site. So we want to make sure that it's a combination of all these three things. How do you find the right keywords? So we are here sharing 6 tools with you. I'll just quickly walk you through them. The first 3 are a Google autocomplete, people also ask section, and searches related to, and then we share with you the 3 free tools that you can use as well. So let me just quickly show you how these work. So autocomplete is essentially, as you're typing in a key phrase, it'll give you other options. And this is a great way you can find out what other individuals are searching for related to the product that you may be selling. So if I'm selling table lamps, now I can see table lamps for living room is a long tail key phrase. And if I have table lamps for living room, this may be one I may consider in my list of key phrases. Or small table lamps, or table lamps with USB. This gives you an idea of what kind of key phrases you could use. The other one we wanted to share with you is, if you scroll down, all the way at the bottom, you can see related searches. So this is another great place where you can see small table lamps, modern table lamps. So these are the kinds of searches. These are the kind of key phrases that other users are searching for. So this could give you a good idea as well. And then finally, people also ask. So this sometimes appears as well, depending on what the key phrase is that you're searching for. And here you can see it's giving you the exact long tail keyword. In fact, this could even be your blog topic. How to make a table lamp, or how to get lamps in a specific place, so on and so forth. So these are great ways where you can find out what people are searching for, and you can build your content around those key phrases. The other thing we wanted to share with you beyond this are these sites. So answer the public. So here, for example, if you search for something like Osmania biscuit, it'll give you results like this. And here you can see what the long tail key phrases are that people are searching for. So for example, when was this biscuit invented? Who makes these biscuits? What is Osmania biscuit? And are they healthy? And why are they called this? And so on and so forth. So these are long tail key phrases that people are already searching for. And you can find a handful of these key phrases, and you can use those key phrases in the content. You can use those key phrases to build articles, so on and so forth. So this is a great way. And then you can use different combination of key phrases. You can use different products, and you can come up with a whole list of key phrases which people are already searching for, which you can rank for. And remember, these are long tail key phrases, so you're likely to rank well. Here's another one, solve. So here, if you search for, let's say, something like mango achar, you can see how these key phrases are. You can see this across all the different sites. So for example, on Amazon, these are the searches people are searching for. They're searching for mango achar mild, mango achar pickle, mango achar masala, and so on and so forth. So now you have a general idea of what kind of things people are searching for, right, on these sites where users are going with the intention of buying. And then you can use those key phrases, and you can consider those key phrases when you're optimizing your site. And then finally, keyword sheeter. So here you can select the country. So let's say if most of your traffic is in India, and then as you type this in, it gives you all these additional key phrases. So you can see mango pickle at home, you can see mango achari, mango achar Kerala style, so on and so forth. So it gives you a long list which keeps going on and on. And then there may be some very good mango pickle Gujarati style. Is mango pickle good for pregnancy? So long tail key phrases which you can use in your content. So hopefully that gives you an idea on how to use some of these tools. Again, we'll share these tools with you at the very end as well. Second is research your competitors. So see where there are gaps in the analysis, and this is critical. So to understand where your competitors are. So one way you do this is you start with the keyword. Essentially, you can search using the key phrases that you've already identified, and you can see if any of your competitors come up on page one. And if you have big competitors who you are not likely to displace anytime soon, then maybe you look for a different key phrase. But if you don't see any of your big competitors on page one, then that may be a key phrase worth considering. Also, when you search, it shows you how many individuals are competing for that key phrase. And if it's a very large volume, then maybe you ignore that. So for example, table lamps has 158 million results. So to rank on page one out of 158 million may be very difficult. But if I make this longer, then this volume may drop. And that's a rough way to understand how much competition you have for that key phrase. Understanding different segments. So there are three parts to SEO, and it's important to understand how all of these three different sections connect. So on-page SEO is essentially optimizing your site for users and search engines. So these are the things you control. This is the content on the site. This is the way the site is structured. These are all the improvements you can make on your own on your website. Off-page are things which are outside of your website. So this is link building. They're getting the right links back to your website, so on and so forth, building authority of your site. Then you can see some of the things listed here. And then finally, technical SEO. So this is the website's code. Is it clean? Is it effective? Luckily, since your stores are built on GlobalLinker, code issue, you probably don't have to worry that much about. But there are certain optimizations you can do here as well, which we'll share with you a little later. Step 4 is on page. So let's start with on page optimization. So keyword placement. So now that you have your list of keywords, where do you put it on the site? So these are the critical areas of where those key phrases should likely appear for your site and for your page to rank well. And if you place those key phrases strategically on your page, you're much more likely to rank well than if you just sprinkle it all throughout the page. So for example, H1 tag. So this is your header for the page. You want to make sure that you include the right key phrases in the header, which carries a lot of weight, because Google thinks, okay, if something appears in the heading of the page, then perhaps the rest of the page is about that key phrase. And so when someone is searching for it, it's more likely to show that web page. Second is H2. So these are all the subheaders on the page. It's important to also remember that you can put your keywords in subheaders. Third, that people forget, is images. And we'll look at this a little bit later on as well. But it's important to use the right key phrases for the images. Then, of course, the content of the body. Then in the URL itself, you want to make sure you sprinkle those key phrases, and also in the snippet. And this is something we'll also look at in a bit. But it's important to ensure that it's at least in the header, H1, especially if it's the key phrase that you are targeting, and it's in the H2, sort of the subheaders, and then sprinkle it throughout the content as well. It's also important to note that you don't want too many, you don't want a very high number of key phrases repeating. Remember, the page should make sense to the end user as well. Otherwise, Google can penalize you for that, to say that, okay, you're trying to trick the search engine. So you don't want to use the same key phrase, 20, 30 times. You want to make sure that you're measured in your approach. Optimizing your product pages. So this includes product descriptions, which tends to be the most text heavy element of the page. H1 tags that we talked about. So just consider having the high intent key phrases in your H1 or the headers. Images, we want to make sure that we include the right key phrases in the images. And then review. If you're to ask your family and friends to leave reviews for you, with the right key phrases, then that'll help you in two ways. One is to make sure that your page has the right keywords, but second, it also is a social validation. So someone else making a purchase will look at those reviews and see if you have enough positive reviews. And family and friends are likely to leave you good reviews. So that may be a quick and easy way to get good positive reviews on the site. So now let's look at this in a little more detail, especially for the product listing page, where some of these things should appear. So page title, well-developed product name, image should be of high quality, and then image should have the right key phrases if you're able to change the image name. Then the header and the subheader, if you have any videos, any related items, and then of course user-generated content. So this is where we are talking about reviews. Make sure, we have seen a lot of sites on GlobalLinker don't have enough content. So number one thing I would recommend that you do is, especially for the important products, if you're to start somewhere, take your 10, 15 most important products and make sure you have enough content there. Make sure you put enough description, because otherwise what will happen is, even if someone stumbles upon that page, if there's not enough information, they are likely to not make a decision unless it's a very common product. And second is, you're unlikely to rank well on those key pages, because Google will not know what this page is about. And certainly you don't have enough content to give a very clear indication that this page is about this topic. So you're very unlikely to rank well for those key phrases. So make sure you spend some time and build out your description, spend some time and rethink your titles and your subheaders, and make sure there's enough content, enough photographs of your product, so that someone who gets on that page can make the right decision. Now we look at optimizing the search snippet. So this is how that page will appear in the search engine. And there are some critical parts to this. So one is the title tag, and then the meta description. And it's important to have the right key phrases in the meta title or the meta tag. And it's also important that your meta description is clear, short, compelling, because what will happen is, just because your site or your page appears on the first page of the ranking doesn't mean it'll necessarily get the clicks. And in fact, just by improving this, we have seen a lot of times the number of clicks that you get can go up even without changing the ranking. So it's important to spend a little bit of time and think through the description. We would also, on the next page, you'll see we give you recommendation on how long this title and description should be, but make sure it's short, it's concise, and it's compelling. So it's written from a user's perspective. Why should a user click on this? What are they likely to find here? So here we, you can see in this case, they're saying, we asked workout professionals to tell us about one piece of equipment that they absolutely need in their home gym. Now that's a compelling enough reason. To get these individuals to click on this link. So these are some of the best practices. So page title should not be longer than 30 characters. So this is important. Otherwise, what will happen is after the title, you will see ... And then it seems incomplete. And we have seen that you get a lot fewer clicks if the title tends to extend that character limit. The description should not be longer than 130 characters. You should use emotional trigger words, here are some products that will make your life easier, or here is how you can get here's how you can do something more efficiently, or those kinds of keywords or key phrases that connect at an emotional level. Make sure it's written for humans and not a search engine, because at the end of the day, even if your page ranks well, it's people who will be clicking on that link, right? So you want to make sure that you get the right number of clicks and it's written from your audience's perspective. It should include unique selling points and so on and so forth. So make sure you keep these best practices in mind as you are drafting your meta title and description for your web pages. Now, next one is optimizing your category pages. So this one is very interesting. So creating unique SEO description for category pages is also important, because here you are looking at SEO title and description for each category page. What is a category page? These are pages which, so let's say if you have multiple products that are all part of the same category, then you'd want to make sure that you have proper description and you have proper keywords in your category pages as well, because the authority goes from top to bottom. So if your category page is properly optimized, some of that authority will then cascade into the product pages as well. So as you're starting out, these are some of the pages you can take a look at, because unlike your product pages where you may have a lot of pages, you will likely have fewer category pages. And so you can look at those pages, you can make sure you're using the right key phrases, and you're optimizing those category pages. There's enough content, so on and so forth, because some of that authority will cascade onto the product pages as well. Make sure you have HTTPS. So make sure you have SSL certificate. We here give you a link where you can get a free SSL certificate. Most of you will not have this issue if you built your store on GlobalLinker. But what happens is if you don't have HTTPS, is that your site shows up as not secure. So none of the data that's going back and forth is secure data. And as a result, it actually impacts your ranking as well, because this is one of the variables that Google takes into account when ranking your site. But also your users are then not likely to trust what they see on the site, even if your payment page may be secure. So it's important and this is simple enough to fix. And I think most of you would not have to worry about this. Test your store performance. So here we share with you 3 different tools that you can use to see how your site is performing. And when we talk about performance, here we are talking about things like errors. We are talking about page load time, things like that. So let me just quickly walk you through or show you what these tools look like. One is page speed. So here you put in a URL like this, and it'll show you what your page speed score is. And it'll show you between desktop and mobile. Usually mobile tends to rank lower, but 19 is not acceptable. That's too low. And this shows you a desktop. So desktop is a little bit better. And then if you scroll down, you can see it'll give you a lot more detail. So how long does it take for the site to fully load? And then further down, you can see how the site appears. And then you can see actual issues. So for example, it's saying that reuse unused JavaScript, and this is causing the biggest issue. And it actually gives you the actual things that you can then share with your technology team or your developer to help you fix. So this gives you a very detailed view of what things can be improved on your site. If you build your site on GlobalLinker, some of these have already been addressed, and you probably don't need to spend too much time on this, but we are just sharing this for sake of completion. Other tool you can use is GT Matrix, which gives you sort of an overall grade on how your site is performing. So here you can see that this site got a grade of B, of course, A being the highest, and you certainly don't want to be near C or D or F. And then it shows you how the site is loading. So you can see first 0.3 second, you don't see anything. The site really starts to load at 1.8 second. Then you can go on, and you can see at 2.5 second, the site is fully loaded. So this is a decent site, you know. And then as you go further down, it'll tell you exactly what kinds of things you can improve. Lazy loading, and so on and so forth. Some of this may be technical, but these are the kinds of things you can share with your developer or your technology team to help you improve on some of these areas. The things that you can improve are things like image size. So make sure the image size is not very big. You know, either and you also want to make sure it's not very low quality, because someone making a decision will look at the image, you know, will need to look at the images and will need to look at the photographs from different angles to make a decision. But make sure that it's somewhere in between. So those kinds of things you can improve on to make sure that the site loads quickly. And then this is just to see whether your site is mobile friendly. So those are some of the tools. Here's an example of performance and how a site loads, and you can see this is not a grade you want, a grade of D, and it gives you all kinds of analysis. Finally, creating content clusters. So here we are saying that, you know, you can think of content in terms of clusters. So how do you cluster related pages together? So blog posts or product pages, and then how do you link to those different cluster pages so that you can attract traffic to your store? So think of your content in forms of clusters, and how you may be able to, and later on we'll also see how you can interlink within the cluster. Content metrics. So here's another way to think about it. So if this is awareness, and as you move to the right, you're getting closer to purchase. So awareness is someone who is just starting to search something, and they are not really ready to make a purchase, where someone closer to purchase is ready to buy. And then on the left side, you have emotional versus rational. So this one, you know, there's emotional person who makes decisions based on emotions versus person who makes decisions based on numbers and facts and features. And what are the different types of content you can create to address these different segments? So on the top left side, you'll create content that's entertaining. So it's high in emotional value and low in awareness. On the right, you build content that's inspiring. So they're ready to make a purchase, but they're still driven by emotion. So here you're talking about reviews, you're talking about community forums, things like that. On the bottom left, you're educating these users because they are rational, but they are just starting out their journey. They are not sure if they are ready to purchase. So here you'd share things like infographics or guides or blog posts. So you're educating your audience so that they feel more comfortable making the purchase, and you want to move these individuals to the right. And on the right side, where they are rational and they are close to making a purchase, you want to share things like checklist or case studies or webinars or calculators. In your case, it'll be things like product features, right? Reviews, those kinds of things, to make sure that if they are close to making a decision, they have all the right information to move forward. Get valuable backlinks. Backlinks are important because some of the authority, relevancy, trust, and also some of the traffic from those other websites come back to your site. So if you're building backlinks from related websites, they also pass on some of their authority. It's like if I give someone's a business card, if I give Malvika's business card to you, I'm also passing some of that authority to say that, okay, I know Malvika and I know she's a good person. So here's her business card. If you want to conduct some business, she's a good person. The same way, if someone is backlinking to your website, they are also passing some of that authority and trust, in addition to any incremental traffic, some of the traffic from their site to your site. So it's very important to spend some time to build out some of the backlinks, and we'll show you how in a minute. So what are the different components? Authority is important. Relevance. So you want to make sure you're building backlinks from related websites. If you're building backlinks from sites which have nothing to do with your product, it'll not be as relevant, it'll not be as important, and also the traffic is more likely to leave. Make sure the anchor text, so this is the text with the link, has the right keywords. So if you are, for example, writing a blog post, you make sure that you are having the right keywords in that anchor text so that Google starts to associate that page with that key phrase. Where it's placed on the site, destination. So all of these things are critical when you're building a backlink back to your site. Now, how do you, don't forget about internal links. So this is something that you can actually do on your own. And you don't have to wait on some other website to link to your site. So for example, and the way you do this is you link related pages, right? So if you, for example, jeans and shorts are related. So you would want to link from jeans to shorts. So in case someone is looking for jeans, pants, they're also likely to find shorts relevant and they may go ahead and purchase shorts. But shirts and shorts may not be as related. So you don't want to link from a shirt page to a page where you're selling shorts, as an example, because they're not really related. So those links will not carry a lot of authority, and you'll likely not also get a lot of clicks. So think about, again, we go back to thinking about this in clusters, and you want to make sure there's interlinking between the cluster of pages. Technical SEO issues that may come up. Again, we have included this for sake of completion. Most of these you probably don't have to worry about. Things like site speed, HTTPS, the structure of the site. Is it indexable? Is it user friendly? Right. So these are the kinds of things that you want to think about. And you want to make sure that now that you are aware of what some of the issues are when you run that performance scan, then you can focus on addressing some of those issues. Link building. So these are some strategies to build links. Guest posting is one. So this is where you go and you post an article on some other website or a related site, and there is a link back to your site, right? You can see where competitors are linking, and then you can go to those same sites and see if you can also link back. You can link from social media, which carries a lot of weight. You can link from directories. So there are a lot of online directories, but make sure you don't say, oh, buy from me. Make sure you're also adding some value. So for example, you can say we have the widest selection of biscuits, or we have the widest selection of necklaces, or we have a very unique collection. Something useful rather than just, oh, hey, click here to buy something, right? Which seems very cheap. So as we get to the end of our presentation, I did want to share all the free tools and resources that we had promised. Some of these were sprinkled throughout the site, but you'll see that there's some new ones here as well. And at the bottom, you can see there are some interesting articles which go into some of the concepts that we discussed in more detail. And they also share some additional information because, SEO is a long game. There are a lot of things you can do. We have only handpicked some of these things. But there's plenty more you can learn. So do check out these articles if you get a chance. And then the free SEO audit. So see exactly what's holding you back and which opportunities might be worth exploring. So this will be specific to your store. What I would ask is if you go onto this link, which I can place in the chat. And there's a short form where we would ask you to share your store URL and your email address so that we will email you back your audit. We spend a lot of time in performing these audits, and we do think you'll find some very interesting insights from this audit. So make sure you do go through the audit and implement some of the recommendations we make, and we'll email you your results in a few days. So depending on the volume of requests we get, and we are limiting one audit per attendee. So I'll ask Ashraf if you're able to share this URL in the chat so that you can go ahead and fill out this short form, and so that we can actually go ahead and do this audit for you, which you'll find some very interesting insights, and you'll also find a lot of things that you'll be able to implement on your own. And then here we have glossary of terms. So when this presentation is shared with you, you can go through this. So this is just to get yourself familiarized. As you read other articles, you may come across some of these terms. So this is a quick reference guide, so you can see what some of these terms mean. So with that, I'll just pause here, and we can spend the last 15 minutes to take any questions that you may have.
So good, Kaushal, so insightful. I'm seeing members here asking for the PPT, asking for all the knowledge that you've shared. So telling everybody again, we will be sharing the recording as well as the PPT to your registered email ID. Don't worry about that. Use this time to actually now go ahead, ask questions. Yes, I can see the chats going up. Great session, really informational. Helpful inputs. Thank you so much for your inputs. Thank you, Kaushal, for actually helping our members today. I'd request you all to now go ahead and use the Q&A section asking any questions. I can see, is there any website to find a relevant backlink website?
Okay.
Mr. Prasad has asked, yeah.
Yeah, I'll ask if Ashraf, you want to take this. I think the question is more around how do we find out from which websites we can link back to. So I'll share one tip with you, and then I'll see if Ashraf or Adnan has anything else they would like to add. So one quick way is to see where your competitors are getting some backlinks from. Another thing you could do is you can search for blog topics, or you can search for blogs related to your product. And sometimes you can actually post a response into the response section of the blog. So, initially it may be hard for some of these blogs to accept your article and display it in their blog, but you may be able to provide a response. Just make sure that that response is related to that blog. Think about how you can add value to the user. So don't say, oh, buy some, achar from us, which seems very, very salesy, and it'll also likely get removed. But you can say, oh, here are some interesting ideas, or have you thought about this? By the way, if you're looking for these kinds of products, we do have wide selection, click here. Now you're at least adding some value, you're providing some information. So let's say if you're, for example, if you're selling lamps, right? You can say that, hey, the latest trend in this vertical is, to go for lamps which have a USB core. Now you're at least adding some value. As a reader, I'll find something like that useful, or this type of lighting will last you longer, or this has a long shelf life, or something useful. And then you can say, oh, by the way, we do have a large selection, click here to learn more, something like that. So you're adding some value, and those kinds of blog posts or those kind of responses don't get deleted, and they tend to bring some traffic and value as well. So with that, I'll just pause if anyone else has anything else to add, and if not, we can move on.
Kaushal, we've Adnan, Ashraf, anything you all want to add on that? I think Kaushal has covered that. Ashraf, yes?
Yeah, so back to that Prasad's question. So one of the easiest way I would say to get backlinks is like link to your site on like your social media profiles on the business listing sites. If you just Google, you'll get a huge list of business listing sites, right? So you can just like, those would be like the initial links you would need in order to start getting some traction out of SEO.
Yeah, so if you type in business directories, you'll see plenty of sites, and this may be a quick, easy way to start listing your site in some of these directories, like Yellow Pages, for example. And there'll be plenty of local directories which may come up in your search as well, and that may be a good place to start. Great point, Ashraf.
Amazing. Again, I think, Kaushal, the number of thank you notes that are coming in are far higher than the questions. So good point to leave all of our members to not with any questions, but just moving to the next one, there is Mr. Hiren who's asking, how does SEO vary if it's an information-based website versus an e-commerce store? I think Ashraf is also typing the answer, but maybe we can just open this.
Yeah, so I would say if it's an information site, by the way, from all our engagements, what we see is that a blog post is much more likely to rank well because it is so keyword rich and because there's so much content. And one of the challenges we see, especially with e-commerce product pages, is there's just not enough content. And so one way you can balance that is to make sure there's enough information, there are enough images, there's enough description, so that you when you're competing head to head with a site that is purely informational, you are at least able to compete and do well. The other thing we have seen is you can have plenty of posts which are just informational, and then you can link from those information pages to a product page. So if I have a blog post on how to select the right lighting for your study room, or how to select the right lamp for your kids' room, right? So that can be very informational. And now a handful of links can link to certain pages or certain specific products. Now the person reading that is likely to trust you. You're building a relationship, you're adding some value, you're building credibility, and then they're likely to click on those links. And now they have a high intent because now they feel like they're educated about that topic to make a decision. So that's another great way. And that's where guest blogging and all those things come in as well. Is that now you have some authority, you're building some relationship, and now you're driving traffic to your site. So hopefully that helps.
Great, absolutely. Before we move on to the next question, I also want to tell our users that we have Adnan, our in-house e-commerce and SEO expert. If you have any questions in relation to how do you do certain things on Linker store in relation to SEO, please go ahead and use the chat box and ask that. He will be happy to answer those questions. Moving to the next question, Kaushal, there is an attendee who asks, where do we put keywords? Is it directly on the content of the website or on the code or the back end of the website?
Oh, excellent point. So it'll definitely be on the content. So let's look at one of the products, one of the e-commerce site that is built on GlobalLinker. So here, if I were to click on one of these pop-up pages, this would be a great place to put content in this section. So product description. This title should have the right key phrases as well. So maybe they did research and they say Moong Sada Papad. Yeah, these are the key phrases, but this can certainly be a little longer as well. Description is where we would put some of the key phrases. Here you can see they have no reviews. So these are the places where you'd want to make sure there's some content. It's very hard for search engine to rank this page and rank it well because there's very little content. So these are things you can do on your own, is to add description here, make the title a little longer, maybe ask family and friends to write some reviews as an example, so that there is enough content on a page like this. Another page, of course, is places like homepage or the main store page. There's plenty of, so here they've used an image, which is very hard. The search engines cannot read images, right? So then, maybe adding some more content here rather than just the product names, and maybe having a short description to let your users know what this store is about and how this store is different than other pop-up stores. So here you may say, we have the most unique selection, or we have a lot of the local flavors that you'll only find on this store, right? Or we have the fastest delivery, whatever it may be that sets this store apart, because that's good for search engine. It's also good for users. Now users are coming in and now they're saying, okay, even if the prices are a little different here, I'll likely purchase from here because this is where I can get local flavors, as an example, if that's important to that prospect. So those are some places where you can add more content, you can add more keywords, and those are things you should be able to change very quickly on your own.
Right. Absolutely, Kaushal. So I think one question that I can see a lot of users asking is, can we target a specific region? So Mr. Bunny Topia, he asks, can we target SEO specific for Philippines only?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, some of the tools we shared with you, you can also search for a specific region to see what are the local searches that you're getting on that specific region, like this one, Keyword Sheeter, right? And then what you do is you see what the local search looks like, which will be different, United States versus Philippines versus India. And then you can say, okay, these are the local key phrases. And also what we have seen is if you include the local city and local region in your searches, a lot of individuals are searching, especially in B2B space, or especially if it's a bigger product, they're looking for local providers because there's also a level of trust, right? They know that, okay, down the street, if there is a merchant, maybe I can trust that person more than someone who is across the country. So you can include, for example, you can say, refrigerator, model of the refrigerator, and you can say Mumbai, or you can say Cebu, Philippines. And so anyone who is including those key phrases in their search is likely to find your site and your store or your product pages, and they're also more likely to trust you, because that obviously is an important criteria if they're using that in their key phrase. So you can include those key phrases in your description or on your store, on the homepage of the store, to say that, we are located in Cebu, Philippines, but we provide or we sell our products all across Philippines or all across the ASEAN market. So those are the kinds of things you may be able to include on the store homepage, so that the Google search engine starts to associate that region with that store and that page.
Right, absolutely, Kaushal. So I think moving to the next question, and actually before we move there, in the initial parts of the session, I had asked members if they have a linker store already, which can be analyzed and therefore also then moved to the free audit. I just wanted to tell people that in case you're looking at any service where you don't have your store ready, we are happy to kind of create it for you at a nominal cost, so you could reach out to us. In case you're looking at having any of the SEO services done by Kaushal and his team, we have a set of packages on GlobalLinker itself. We will share the link here. You could have a look at it. It's very different from what other agencies provide. It's a holistic picture, so do go ahead and avail that if you want to do a thorough SEO analysis, as well as use it for your building. So
one point I'll make is that our SEO packages are specifically designed for GlobalLinker stores. So we do plenty of SEO outside of GlobalLinker as well. But especially if you have an SEO store on GlobalLinker, then we know exactly, and we work closely with Adnan and team and the technology team as well. So we'll make sure that all the right elements are positioned in the right way so that you can get the most. So we are very familiar with the platform. As Malvika mentioned, I was one of the original co-founders as well. So I know the platform fairly well. We have a really good team of individuals who have worked on other accounts on GlobalLinker, so we can bring a lot of those learnings and a lot of those best practices to you as well, if that's something you're interested in. And there are plenty of tips here where you can also get started on your own.
Absolutely. So moving to the next question, Kaushal, just taking an example, Mr. Rajesh Gokhale, he says they deal in products ranging from wax candles, paper bags, cotton bags, handicrafts for disabled, tribal, and rural people. If you had to take an example, what should the SEO word be that he should target?
So I think that's very interesting. So anything tribal. So there is a cultural element. There is maybe there may be individuals who may want to help a local community, who may want to encourage businesses that sort of keep these traditions alive. So you want to think about those kinds of audiences. They are likely to there may be regional variations. So you may want to say, for example, if these handbags are made, let's say in Assam or those kinds of areas, then you maybe want to include those key phrases as well. You may want to bring some of the cultural elements into it. So anything related to cultural tradition, regional variation, so regions. Also, this is a really good example of how you can differentiate yourself. So you can say, hey, look, this is not just about money. Right? This is about keeping the traditions alive. This is about helping the local community. This is about culture. And so now your pricing becomes inelastic. Now, even if your pricing is a little different than something that was, made in China, people are maybe willing to pay a little bit more because they are helping the local community. So those are the kinds of things maybe you want to highlight, especially on your homepage or even on your page, on your description pages, where you can say, hey, what's unique about this product? These are handcrafted. The other thing I've seen is if you've seen Surya rugs, right? A very, very big brand. They actually show you the process through which they make their rugs. And when I saw that process and how they are working with local individuals who are handcrafting some of these rugs, then price became a non-issue. Because I say, okay, if I buy this rug, it's giving employment to a lot of these people who otherwise have no other means of making money. And you can see the scale in which they are doing this. So even if you have to take some photographs or some videos of locals making some of these things, and that's also good content you can share on social media and bring links back to your site. So those are some very clever ways that you can build a relationship, and you can also get the right key phrases and rank well on the search engine.
Thank you, Kaushal, for taking that example. Moving to the next question, we've seen a lot of examples now on the products front. There is a lady, Shikha Singh, who wants to understand, do the same things apply for the services sector as well?
Very interesting. So in services, I think there are more opportunities also to differentiate. So in process, what you can, in product, what you can do is, as I mentioned, you can show the process, you can show how it's made, where it's made, maybe, shipping, delivery, customer service, those things can be differentiated. But with services, there are so many other things. Certainly process can be one thing. You can also highlight the team of experts you may have. You may highlight the tools and technology you may be using. And there you may want to highlight and you may want to differentiate. Maybe not so much location, maybe one if it's a local service, but on other things like, how is your process different? That you use a certain checklist, or you have access to certain partnerships, which gives them a unique advantage. So there are plenty of areas where you may be able to differentiate, and then you can include those keywords, because those are the kinds of keywords that your users may be searching for. The other thing is you can, a clever way of doing it is, let's say you can search on Amazon for the books related to the service you are offering, and then go into the feedback section and see the kind of feedback people are providing. And a lot of times there may be interesting insights. So for example, if we are offering marketing services, a lot of the feedbacks are around like, oh, how do I know this will work? Or I don't want to wait for this many months. And so those are the kind of pain points you can address when you're creating your content. And you can, because now you have a general understanding of what people's or what your audience's pain points are. And then you can build content around that. So hopefully that helps as well.
Absolutely. And Kaushal, just further on, while it's a different segment, Mr. Kiyush asks, is there anything you'd like to share on high value items? So let's say they're into jewelry business. Is there anything different that they need to do in terms of SEO?
Yes. When it's a high value item, I think trust is critically important. I think also for high value item, you want to make sure you build something for each one of the steps, as you can see. So because you want to take this user through the journey. High value item, people tend to spend more time doing research. A lot of it actually happens online before they even reach out to you. A transaction may actually happen in person or over the phone where they may feel more comfortable, but a lot of the research happens online. So this is where things like case studies, social proof, those things become very critical, because they want to make sure they're dealing with a brand that is trustable. High value items also tend to be more complex because you're not selling a bag of potatoes, right? So you have to provide enough detail about the features, about service guarantees, about the key benefits. You need to have a lot more photographs, and everything needs to be high quality on your site. Everything from the, make sure you do proper grammar check, spell check, you have high quality images, you explain your product or services in greater detail. That's where I think having more detailed blog articles can be very useful, so that they understand your level of expertise, there is more trust. And you want to make sure you don't lose anyone along the funnel, because likely they'll go through this journey in small steps. They'll first do proper research, they'll look at press releases, they may look at any articles you may have published, then they may want to see a demo in some cases, they may want to go on through a webinar, they may want to understand product features, checklist, case studies. So if you have any of these elements missing, then you'll likely see leakage in the funnel, where those individuals will say, I don't have all the information, and they may go to a competitor, or they may not be ready to make a decision, or it may take them longer to do research. So build out different pieces of content all throughout the journey, so you don't see leakage in the funnel.
Absolutely, Kaushal. I think just interacting with various SME and business owners, we've seen a lot of people actually contributing articles, writing about knowledge that they can share with their peers and colleagues, rather than just inviting business opportunities, to gain trust, to build that credibility. So I think that's another medium that our users can use: write articles, share knowledge, improve the trust, and then proceed with transactions. Moving to the next, yeah.
Actually, a very good point. I do want to highlight. So just to press on that a little bit more, there are plenty of opportunities on the GlobalLinker platform for you to publish articles. So you don't even have to go on third-party sites. And now those individuals are on GlobalLinker. These pages likely rank well, because we're putting a lot of effort to make sure pages on GlobalLinker rank well. And that's where you can talk about a specific topic that you're familiar with, and then build an internal link to your store. So that's a very good point. And now those are links, and that's a content you can create like starting today if you want it, and make sure it's written to provide value to your users. And selling should be a very small part of it, right? Even look at this webinar, right? We didn't talk about our services. Most of the content was all focused on what are the things you can do on your own, right? If this entire presentation was about the services we offer, most of you won't stick around. The other question I'm seeing, which I do want to take, is SEO. Does it work for financial services? So right before this agency, I was at Prudential. and we did, which is a very large financial organization. And a lot of our marketing was for financial advisors, and it was all focused on individuals. A lot of it was B2C, but a lot of it was B2B as well. And so what I would say is there's a lot of confusion on financial products. And if you are able to demystify the products, the terms, what does insurance coverage mean? What does insurance premium mean? Some basic things people don't know. And if you're not sure, you're unlikely to take action. But if you can demystify some of those things, what do those common terms mean? And how do you select the right product? How do you select the right services? That will build so much credibility. And that will help you get the right kind of individuals who are actively searching what these things mean, because they're looking to make a decision. And then you can say, hey, look, if you have more questions, if you have, because here we have covered this topic, but if you have questions around how these different products work, click here and speak with us, and we'll walk you through the differences. Now that's very easy because it's based on information and value that you're adding rather than selling products directly. So you can build a relationship to say, a lot of these products are complex, they're confusing. We've tried to provide some information, but if you have more questions, click here and we can help you, and we can show you how these different products are or which product may be right for you.
Absolutely. And I think, Kaushal, a lot of our users today would have already submitted their stores for the free SEO audit, but just telling everybody again that in case you want to get the services done from Kaushal and his team, then do go ahead and use the form that Ashraf has shared. Ashraf, I'd request you to post it again in the chat box so that people don't miss out on that wonderful opportunity. Okay, so I think there's a technical question here. Manpreet Kaur asks, what is the meaning of core web vitals assessment status that it's showing failed for them?
Very good point. So I'll ask Ashraf to take this one.
Okay, so basically there's not like a direct answer to it because this is a little technical. So there may be issue with your JavaScript or like with loading or images. Those three would be like the main issues, but because of which you would be getting it as a failed. But like we could assess it. Like if we have the store URL, we could assess it and give you like what the specific reason is. And also, just to also let you know, like once you make the fix, it generally takes like Google generally takes like 3 to 4 weeks, approximately around 21 to 28 days before it tells you that it is fixed.
Yeah, and one of the key components for that core vital is how quickly it focuses on the user's experience with your site. So how quickly is it loading? Are there errors? Are there browser issues? So as Ashraf mentioned, it could be many things, but it impacts the user experience. And when it impacts the user experience, it'll also impact your ranking. Google places a lot of emphasis on, does your site provide a good experience to the user that it's sending to your site? So if the site takes a very long time to load, if it has errors, if it has problems, then your site will likely will not rank well.
Right, and a follow on to that, Kavita asks, how do we really fix it? How do we fix these issues? So I think we can take these questions offline once your SEO audit is done, the free one that you've already, I think, Kavita, submitted for. I think you will be able to understand what to do and how you can fix these issues. Moving to the next question, and I think I'll open that to the three of you here. Will hosting on e-commerce website, will hosting our e-commerce website on GlobalLinker result to a higher SEO ranking over any other platform like Shopify or Magento?
So I'll share a quick thought, and then maybe I'll ask Adnan to jump in. So for GlobalLinker, what we are doing is we are making improvements that impact all the stores. So a lot of the basics that you would have otherwise to worry about, you essentially don't have to think about it too much when you create your site on GlobalLinker. As with any site, no matter where you create your site, there is content, those things you'll still have to think about, right? What kind of content what keywords, because each store is unique, each product is unique. And your audience may be somewhat unique as well. So those are the things that you constantly have to think about, and you'll constantly have to modify. But a lot of the basics are already addressed when you build your store on a site like GlobalLinker, and we are constantly making improvements and introducing new things so that the sites continue to rank well. So I'll just pause here and see if Adnan has anything he would like to add.
Thanks, Kaushal. You have covered it pretty well. The only thing that I would want to highlight here, and I believe already everyone would have get the gist that content is everything. That's where you have to focus. So whatever technology you have, if you're providing the right content, that's where your probability increases. If you have the best of the website, you have best of the technology in the world, but if your content is not there, your site will not rank. So that's the area that you have to focus.
Very good point. And that's also an area that you can control, luckily, right? So that's where you should be able to make, you don't need a lot of technical knowledge. You just need to understand your product and your audience really well to find. And then we shared with you some of the free tools that you can use to think of your keywords and key phrases more broadly. And if you spend time, start with something simple. Take your top 10 or 20 product pages. Look at your category pages. Look at your home page. And then use some of these tools to come up with an initial set of key phrases. That's still better than, because this can seem like a very big task, but if you break it in small pieces, then at least you're getting some traction and at least you're starting somewhere.
Absolutely. I think we've now gone overboard on time, as well as Kaushal is based in the US, woke up very early to help all of you here today. So are there any further questions, or we can take them offline? We'd invite you to, in case you're looking for creating your store, you can reach out to GlobalLinker, either me, Adnan, anybody else in the team. Or if you're looking at getting your SEO done, there are various packages that are very rich, very informational. Please go ahead. I've put it in the chat box. Use that and invite your customers to really explore and reach out to you. So yes, that's a good morning to Kaushal. So, okay, so thank you everybody for joining in today. And thank you so much, Kaushal, Ashraf, Adnan, for sharing all these valuable insights with our members today.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thanks everyone for joining, and thanks for staying late. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kaushal. Thank you, Malvika. Thank you, Ashraf. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.